Hello here and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipp, Robin Washett with you guys here as a calendar now in the month of May. Coaches on the road recruiting, and we've seen a lot of that going on. In fact, all 8 of the local players that Nebraska has offered now have been visited. They can be visited once. We've seen that kind of all over the internet this week where a couple of the guys, Christian Jones and Chase Lofton from Westside and Elkhorn North, had entire staffs visit. 10 coaches visit them at the high school. So that's going on. It's also kind of traveling season camp season. I want to hit on this camp in Omaha, but back from Chicago and had a good trip, guys.
Did you?
Met a lot of great listeners of the show. You find out a lot of people in Chicago listen, and a lot of people ask me, why does Sipple not like Chicago?
Let's not get into that.
And
you really want to go there? Whoa! Was there any empty?
So seats? right in front of me, the other bald head right in front of me, that was former Husker Todd Peterson.
Whoa!
He's a chiropractor in Chicago, and Todd was at the event.
Look at Sean. It's like Dannon.
Yeah, Troy. They're like, we didn't get Troy Dannon, we got the cheaper version.
You got a cheaper Troy Dannon.
But Todd Peterson was at the event. Fred Duda, former Husker quarterback for Bob Devaney. And you know, he was awesome. Interesting. Played in the 60s, lives in Chicago. He was a Chicago high school football legend. Told me a story that when he was a senior in Chicago, they played the city championship game for Catholic schools in Soldier Field in front of 85,000 fans.
That is incredible.
At a high school game.
I wonder if they still draw that.
No way.
You know,
I mean, Texas high school finals, but you know, just think about Chicago, how many Catholics are in that town, and the championship game in that era of the 1950s or 60s.
Drew 85.
Drew 85,000.
85,000.
But Jordan Westerkamp was not able to make it. He was a sponsor of the event. He's having a baby, and him and his wife were on a honeymoon or baby moon.
A baby moon.
Baby moon.
There's a new one. Hey,
we did a baby moon.
Did you? It was beautiful. There was Alante Brown there by any chance.
Speaking of Chicago, high school legends.
Do I need to explain?
I did find it.
Some people don't get the joke.
Alante Brown, Sean, was regarded as the best player in the city of Chicago.
A fact that
Parker Gabriel likes to just relish in that.
It freaked me out. I never could get over it. I just think about when you were a high schooler. If you could say, I'm the best player in the city of Chicago, my God.
It didn't get him too far, though. I mean, he had it okay, but his name came up yesterday for me. I was looking up. So Jaden Mangum, the defensive back out of Michigan State, was a really, really good player for Mel Tucker. Okay. Has played the last 2 years, one in the transfer portal. Long story short, his brother was a running back, and they're kind of moving on from him.
Okay.
So that led Mangum into the portal as well.
Okay.
Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska, Georgia, Alabama are the teams involved right now. And he's going to visit Nebraska, but he visited Nebraska in 2021 on an official. And guess who his visitor host was? Alante Brown.
I'll be darned. Look at that.
And then he played with Alante Brown at Michigan State.
Yep.
But Mangum will come in for his trip next week on Monday, sandwiched between Michigan and Ohio State visits. So this one caught me a little by surprise, but he's just one of those guys you make room for. He had 4 interceptions last year.
Okay. Yeah.
And about 60 tackles.
Yeah. Yeah. You do make room. Not like Nebraska needs a safety bad.
And I'm like, can he play corner? But he's a safety.
Yeah. I mean, it just falls under the category of you always want to add good players, right?
Or can he allow someone else that's currently playing safety to play corner?
And you had some NIL issues at Michigan State that happened where some of the higher paid players for the Mel Tucker era, the collective went in different directions.
Huh.
And so some of you've seen some pretty good players leave East Lansing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's Jonathan Smith is kind of going in a different direction. I think he wants to build a more traditional meat and potatoes culture that Michigan State's been known for versus kind of the buy the player culture that Mel Tucker, won a Sugar Bowl with or Peach Bowl with, but it just, but yeah, Mangum is leaving as one of the better players from Michigan State, and Nebraska will host him next week.
Interesting, Sean.
But yeah, back to Chicago, went to a Cubs game.
Yes.
And ran into our buddy Lane Grindle. He was the play-by-play guy for the Brewers now. And so we got to see Lane, but Lane told one of the guys working the in-stadium crew,
There you are.
There's the family outside Wrigley, where we were sitting, and Kelly was his name. He worked for Husker Vision at one point. He's from Grand Island. So Kelly's like, "Hey, Sean, I'm from Grand Island, and we're going to put you on the big screen board." So
wow.
They put our family on the big screen board in Wrigley Field right after they showed Caleb Williams.
Oh, God.
Natural transition.
Oh my God.
And again, they might have thought Troy Dannon was there instead, but it was just my family.
Did they tell your daughters and wife, or did they just tell you that you're going on?
No, they gave us time to like get ready for it. It
Prep.
was, like he was standing there, and then they cued him, and he's like, "Hey, have the person take a picture of the screen so you can get this captured."
Yeah.
So that's how we got it captured. But this almost looks like AI generated. It's not. It's such a big screen. It's like, whoa.
That's awesome.
Look at Sean. Proud Papa.
Well, I was sipping old styles in Wrigley Field, Steve Sipple. Where were you Saturday?
Where was I Saturday? Oh, I was at camp. I was at the Matt Rhule camp, the Nebraska football camp, as it were, at Norris Middle School in the Eastern Omaha. I'm going to call it Eastern Omaha.
I grew up 3 miles south of that school, and it was 42nd Street, just south of the interstate.
Okay. Yeah. And this was 42nd Street, just north of the interstate.
Norris is north. You're right, north of the interstate.
Yeah, Norris is north of the interstate where Amon Green played, and it was grades 3 through 8. It was quite a scene. It was really pretty amazing. I had no idea what I was getting into. In fact, that morning, Saturday morning, I talked to Sean. He said, "Why don't you head up to Omaha?" I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, there's a camp." And that's about all I knew. But then when I got there, it was pretty amazing.
Got some news too out of it, right?
Yeah, got some news, and Sean alluded to this in his column, on his Monday column. It kind of broke. Well, so did Matt Rhule. He alluded to it. It kind of broke down a barrier. Nebraska hadn't made a lot of inroads into, we'll say, inner city Omaha, and they did in this case. And Rhule really was intent on doing it. He doesn't want that divide anymore. And if there's anybody that can do it, it'd be Rhule. You know, for one thing, I think he sort of has the advantage in a way of being coming from the outside. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what the problem is. We're just going to go do a camp.
It was very grassroots. We're just going
to go do a camp at Norris. You know, it was grassroots.
Like, that's what struck me. Like, a lot of times when Nebraska does anything, it's like brought to you by First National Bank, you know, and it's heavily sponsored, and this was kind of like they gave a few days notice. The tweet was out,
right,
and there was no signage or spot. It was just Nebraska
spontaneous.
Went into a no longer used Omaha Public Schools football stadium and ran a football camp.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting when you like just driving up on it. You wouldn't have. It didn't look like anything big was going on. And then when you got close, you're like, okay, there's quite a few cars there. I wonder what's going on. If you were in the neighborhood. And then when you got up there, you know, you see Rhule and you see Teddy Prohaska, you see Dylan Raiola and Danny.
All the coaches were there pretty much, right?
I think pretty much all of them. There was 32 players there, which was really impressive because that was volunteer. And they did a great job. The players did a great job. I mean, I saw, setting the scene a little bit, that, you know, before the afternoon session, what grades, maybe 5th and 6th graders. I don't know what grades it was, but they were all in the gym at Norris, and Elliot Brown was kind of the MC. He addressed the kids quickly, introduced Dylan. Now, Dylan stayed in the background for the most part. Elliot introduced him and made him do who's the wrestler that does the woo? Who's that guy?
Ric Flair.
He did a Ric Flair. He made Dylan do a Ric Flair, which was okay.
Elliot Brown was the MC in Ireland too at that pep rally.
Yeah, Elliot Brown has that skill set. And then Rhule took the floor and did his usual fabulous job. Quick, just brief comments, and then the kids all went out in the field. But it was really well done. The kids, Vincent Carroll Jackson, I saw, Jeremiah Charles, Jalen Lloyd, went into the stands and shook the hands of the kids, as many as they could get to. And that was, I thought that was really good. I think that was impromptu.
I'm being serious. I've never seen Nebraska football do something like that, where they took the entire operation into Omaha. And you always hear things about doing like, oh, have a spring game or spring practice at a high school stadium somewhere around the state. Like Iowa's done that.
Mhm.
But to do something like this is not really trying to get like the marketing out of it. It was just kind of
No, they didn't. They didn't.
No.
They didn't give us much notice.
we had like 2 hours notice.
Yeah, the media. Keith Williams is the person to give a lot of the credit to. He's the director of player personnel now. He's a former Nebraska offensive lineman. I'm not talking about
not whiteouts.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the whiteouts coach. He's a big man.
The original
Williams is
Keith Williams.
Yeah, the original Keith Williams is a big dude. And he gets a lot of the credit for the organization. And it was well done. It was really well done, I would say.
And
really
Keith
well
is from St. Louis, and he's actually helped Nebraska really try to, it's been kind of a talking point for 15 years to get back into St. Louis. And I think they have somebody in Keith that's really helping them, get some guys here as well from St. Louis.
Yeah, that needs to happen too. But I think this needed to happen. And you're right. It probably happened in a perfect way. It was. First National Bank didn't sponsor it. It was just very low. It was pretty low key. Now it was pretty low key, but when you got there, it was really striking.
Like, were there vendors of any kind?
I don't.
Like,
well, they fed the kids Chick-fil-A. Does that count?
oh, okay. So Chick-fil-A donated some sandwiches.
Chick-fil-A at the end of the camp. Each camper got Chick-fil-A. I know that. And it wasn't. No, it was very grassrootsy, as you would say. Which
is hard to do for Nebraska athletics in general. They just can't. There's so many people that want to like make things corporate now. You just don't see something like that too often.
No, it was good. It was good for everything from the way Elliott Brown handled it to. I was really impressed kind of the way Dylan Raiola stayed in the background. Dylan does a good job of that for being such a high profile person. I am impressed by his awareness. I mean, he didn't make himself a big deal. I think he just defers to the older guys. Teddy was a big deal.
Jalen Lloyd,
kind of a bigger deal, although he's a young guy.
Well, Jalen was an OPS kid before Westside. He was an Omaha Central guy, so I'm sure that was for him really important to be out there.
It seemed like it. Jeremiah Charles is really interactive with the kids. Vincent Carroll Jackson's really good with kids. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice to see.
Well, we're gonna when we come back, I want to talk about a couple things, but I want to start out Joel Klatt. Here we go. Off-season national championship, defending our title here in Lincoln, Nebraska, has Nebraska in the top 25. And we're going to discuss that point next. Yes. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett as making our way here now through the month of May. And it's grilling season. What does that mean? Omaha Steaks is got you all hooked up, and nothing says summer like the taste of a juicy, tender burger grilled to perfection. And nobody does burger perfection quite like Omaha Steaks. Right now, you can taste burger perfection for yourself with the Burger Perfection Flight. This exclusive package includes 20 of their mouth-watering steak burgers, 4 each of their pure ground filet mignon burgers, New York strip burgers, ribeye burgers, brisket burgers, and sirloin burgers. You'll get all of this deliciousness for just $79.99. That's 20 beefy, juicy burgers for $79.99. Go to omahasteaks.com and order today. These are the kinds of burgers that could only come from Omaha Steaks. From the mild and tender filet mignon burger to the rich and buttery ribeye burger, every bite is backed by their 100% unconditional guarantee. Go to omahasteaks.com and shop the Burger Perfection Flight today. That's omahasteaks.com and order the Burger Perfection Flight for $79.99, and you'll want to hurry as submitted. Thank you again to Omaha Steaks for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, guys, I want to talk. Joel Klatt came out with his post-spring, way too early top 25. And I'm sure a lot of thought for him went into this.
Yeah.
You look at Nebraska, what they've added to their team, but their schedule, they have a very favorable draw. And I think anybody with a good head on their shoulders would recognize that. He has Nebraska right now ranked number 22 in the way too early preseason poll. Now, looking in the Big Ten, Ohio State and Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State are all top 10 teams. Guess how many of those teams Nebraska plays this year?
One
team, Ohio State. So that alone, I think, USC is number 15.
Oh, there you go.
Iowa's number 24. Wisconsin not on the poll.
Nope. A couple of those I can't tell who they are. 6, I didn't know who the hell that was. I guess that's Utah. 6.
Sometimes that looks like Indiana.
Yeah. I was like, Indiana 6.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Somehow they decided to make that the Utah Utes, but it's a really confusing logo. I would agree with you on that, old man Steve Sipple.
Oh, well, there it is, Sean. That's interesting. It had nothing to do with age. Ole Miss 5, Utah 6 are really interesting. Clad, as far as Nebraska goes, he did it. He went to places that it's hard to go to around here. He said they could be 7-0 going into Ohio State.
Colorado being the toughest game.
Yeah. He said 7-0. And he said the other magic words, this could be an 8 to 9 win team.
You know what, though? This is an identical schedule to 2016 when Nebraska went 7-0 under Mike Riley. That was the last time Nebraska football has been ranked inside the top 10. And you go back to that schedule in 2016, they had Oregon. And you could argue that Oregon opponent that came into Lincoln is a much better team than Colorado.
Oh God, yeah. Now they didn't have Royce Freeman that day, or he started the game.
They knocked him out.
Now, if Royce Freeman plays that game, it might look different.
Maybe.
But
they won that game in Lincoln.
Yeah.
And they won it against Indiana and Illinois and I believe Purdue. I mean, they had almost an identical draw in 20. That was the schedule that kind of gave you a little bit of hope with Mike Riley. And then they got blown out against Iowa, which led to the firing of Mark Banker eventually at the end of the year.
I want to hear what Rob has to say, but I want to say one thing. I listened to Joel Klatt. I listened to Joel Klatt above all others.
He's probably one of the smartest college football analysts out there, just because he doesn't, sure, he throws opinion out there, but a lot of it is reasoned opinion. Like, he just doesn't throw out hot takes just to get attention and clicks. Like, I think he puts, like you said, a lot of thought into this, and his thinking behind putting Nebraska this high was, you look at what they did last year and all the 3-point losses that they had.
4 3-point losses?
And the fact that they,
Four 3-point
Michigan
losses.
State, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Maryland, right?
Yeah, that's 4.
Okay.
So
that's 4.
So he's saying
15 turnovers.
I'll take the L in the chin there.
He's saying that in itself, gives reason that they were better than what their record would have indicated. Nebraska fans are tired of hearing that. But then he's pairing that with the quarterback situation. And he says that if Dylan Raiola is just even mildly better than what they were just in terms of turnovers, that should inherently lead to more wins. And then you add in the favorable schedule, which we've already talked about. They're set up in a really good position. Now, we'll see how much that translates. We're talking about projections in May, but I think that's a lot of reasons why a guy like Joel Klatt, who is not just throwing out to get Nebraska clicks, I think he honestly believes that this team was better than they were a year ago and will be significantly better than they were this year.
Yeah, I don't think – there's no real reason for him to play politics here. Nebraska's not going to be on that big noon kickoff, so he's not trying to drive up Nebraska's ratings.
Well, they could be later in the year.
Yeah, it could be, but I don't think he has any reason to do this that's other than he really believes Nebraska's okay. He clearly respects Rhule. He respects what Rhule did at Baylor and Temple, and he thinks he's in the midst of doing it at Nebraska. So his reasoning was, I would say, spot on. It's just he says some things that I don't want to say we're not allowed to say, but if I get on a radio show or this podcast and say I think they're going to go 7-0, it's going to be, oh, there you go again. There you go again.
Sipple's drinking the Kool-Aid already.
Yeah, here
Media
we go.
hype.
Yeah.
You have been the problem.
Right.
This is what somehow us having a glass half full opinion of looking at a schedule where Vegas is going to say you're favored in every game, that you can win all those games, which, by the way, people that make billions of dollars put those numbers on those games, and we're just saying, yeah, they could win all 7 games. No, people freak out about it.
You are part of the problem.
That's right.
People that are a lot smarter than you and I,
right,
which is a lot of people.
Yeah, that does narrow it down.
But but they're going to put numbers on these games where Nebraska's it's probably going to be favored in all 7. You never know, going to Purdue, what that line could be. Indiana on the road, but I would be shocked if they're a dog in any of the first 5 home games.
What I would tell Klatt if he asked me was, Nebraska doesn't appear to be a team with any major problems. I think they have some minor issues, though. I mean, they have a freshman quarterback. They have a kicker that's been inconsistent.
Running back, like nobody's
hold
actually.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. Punter inconsistent. Yeah, no running back that's really, you would say, wow.
Punter is a concern.
Yeah,
when you start shanking 20-yard punts in field position games, that's how you lose.
Exactly. What's the problem been? Close games. I mean, there's a reason to. He's not the only reason, but there's the offensive line still has a lot to prove. So there's a lot of little minor things that can add up if you're not careful.
But the biggest thing is just the unknowns, I think, for Nebraska, that you think the quarterback position is going to be better. You think the wide receivers are going to be more talented. You think the offensive line will naturally be better. You think that they have enough options at running back, that they will be better than they were a year ago. But until they actually do it, that unknown is what I think is going to limit too much hype from flowing, even if national guys like Clatter are saying they're top 22.
22. I did think in the spring game that I think the roster overall does look better when you zoom out a little bit and not just focus on, the minutia. If you just zoom out, it looks better. It looks better.
If they get to 7-0, they'll be ranked.
No doubt.
Oh God, yeah.
No doubt.
I mean, I think if they get to like 4-0, they're ranked.
Yeah, close. Yeah, close.
I mean, if they look convincing.
Yeah. 7-0, I would think they're top 15.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden,
am I crazy?
No.
Am I crazy? 7-0, you're top 15.
And then, hey, I wanted to get this in real quick too, guys. Remember Bubba Starling? Not Bubba Starling, Monte Harrison.
I do remember.
Former Husker, 2014 recruit, drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers. Ended up playing for the big league Florida Marlins. Signed to play for Arkansas football this fall.
He's still a receiver.
So he's still a receiver and was the Kansas City High School Football Player of the Year. Outstanding football talent. Was a Bo Pelini guy. And that was kind of that era where Bo lost Bubba Starling to the Royals, then Monte Harrison to the Brewers, both MLB draft picks. But Monte Harrison is going to be playing football for Arkansas.
At age?
He'd be about 28-ish.
This is an amazing story. I remember I went down to Kansas City and watched him play basketball, and it was a sight. I mean, that was because Nebraska was all over him. Everybody was talking about him. People even remember this. I mean, Monte Harrison would probably go 6'4", 6'3". I don't know what he would go now. He's probably 190 back then, probably 210 now is my guess. Big time receiver, just the kind of guy you need. I mean,
well, just his maturity level
now,
being a professional athlete for 10 years, going into a college situation, it's just going to be like he's going to be like another coach.
Yeah,
he'll be older. He'll probably be older than a couple of the coaches.
I wonder if he can still run. I mean, that's the thing that you wonder about right away. Right?
He was one of the most dynamic athletes for that age coming out of high school that a lot of us had ever seen.
So,
he was a major league dunker. I know that.
I'll never forget. We had the Rivals camp back then, an Under Armour camp, and it was either in St. Louis or Kansas City. And he showed up to the camp in heart of baseball season, like April or May, takes off his baseball cleats, puts on football cleats. He was MVP of the camp.
Really?
And Alan Lazard, who's an NFL wide receiver, was there, and some other big name receivers. And he was significantly better than a guy like Alan Lazard, who ended up, catching a lot of touchdowns in the NFL.
Yep. Wow. This is definitely a story to watch. Did he consider Nebraska?
Oh, there's no relationship. I mean, who knows? I mean, he's a grown man. I mean, it's not like, I'm sure
Arkansas is close. It's close.
I'm sure there's got to be some sort of connection. But God, you'd think Lance Leipold at Kansas would have been all over him. He's a Kansas City area guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Or Missouri.
Yeah.
I mean, the Missouri Tigers, you saw them in that ranking list.
They're number 10.
Yeah.
Missouri's number 10 in Joe Klatt's top 10.
All three of those old Big 8 teams in Kansas, Missouri are ranked.
Yeah.
Missouri was 10, K-State was 20, and KU was 23.
Yeah. Something like that.
Long live the Big 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
back.
Monte Harrison, Bubba Starling were right in that same. Were they in the same class?
No, they were a couple years apart. 2011.
Okay, yeah.
Would have been that year with Bubba. The first year of the Big 10.
So that Monte Harrison story is going to be something to watch.
And there's Bubba at a fan photo day. Look at the young Adam Kruger in the photo bomb there.
Just a youngster,
photo
little guy.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it was 2011. That was 13 years ago. Bubba Starling never really was going to happen here.
It's fun while it lasted.
It was. Now he was a dude with a. I mean, I watched him play baseball. It was ridiculous how fast he was, and his arm strength was incredible. But he wasn't. I'll never forget watching him take batting practice, thinking, "Ooh, that's just okay." And then in the game I saw, he was 1 for 4. And I was like, I don't know if he can hit major league pitching. He never did. He never did. Never did.
It would have been interesting to see both those guys come and play football and play baseball for the Huskers at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it would have been interesting to watch Bubba run the bases. He was playing a good team, a good Legion team. He was stealing third standing up. Think about that. You weren't doing that, Sean.
Well,
stealing third standing up.
You watch a big league game, every guy can run like that.
That's true.
I mean,
they have to be.
Unless you're just an elite home run hitter.
Right.
But you watch like Shohei Ohtani. I mean,
oh God,
he probably runs a 4.5 40,
something crazy.
Yeah, he's
and he can hit a
biggest freak in
baseball
Major
100
League Baseball history.
He can hit a home run 120 miles an hour.
Yeah. I saw those 2 ding dongs he hit on Sunday.
Just a dead center.
Dead center.
I said it sounded like a shotgun.
Yeah. I was hoping
He
he bet on himself.
They swept the. He took the overs on price picks, but all right.
That's enough. Sorry.
When we come back,
Sorry,
Abby
Commissioner.
Barmore was out in Kearney, spring volleyball over for the Huskers. We're going to chat with Abby about spring volleyball next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Wash, and Abby Barmore joining us. But before we get to some volleyball discussion, this segment of the Husker Online Show brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years. With risk management solutions built for local businesses, Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefits costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or even friendly competitors? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, or your life outside of work and your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrock-norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Thank you again to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's welcome in Abby Barmore, who's back from Kearney. Spring volleyball in the books. And Abby, now you're kind of a veteran of these spring volleyball matches. You had 5,400 fans at the UNK Health and Science Sports Center in Kearney.
Yeah, it was just a little over 5,000. It was like 5,094 people, but they really packed it full, and that was impressive.
What now? You've been to Grand Island and Central City and a number of other ones. What were your thoughts on this setup for the spring match?
Yeah, this is a really nice setup because they fit a lot more people in there than Central City. They're all kind of different. Like Central City was fun just because like they had just recently opened the gym and everyone was really excited. I got to see more of the town. I've been to Kearney more than I have Central City, believe it or not. So yeah, it was good. But I got to say, I think Central City, the crowd was a little more hyped up and loud, and maybe it was just because of the way that the gym was. But yeah, it was fun.
Well, we'll hear from some Kearney people, I'm sure, Abby.
Okay. I stand by my
Like
statement.
what can they possibly do next for these spring matches? I mean, like they've done it literally everywhere in this. I was kind of looking this over, and some other locations came to my mind. They could play it in Sioux City, Iowa, at the Tyson Event Center, which is 10,000
Good idea.
people. They could play it in Sioux Falls.
Good idea.
At Stanford Arena there, which is 10,000.
He is the AD.
I mean,
Are you sure you're not Troy Dam?
and I know you kind of like to keep these games in Nebraska, but that would be kind of expanding your reach.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at the turnout basketball gets at Pentagon.
Sioux Falls.
Just imagine what volleyball would do.
And then
Is that in Sioux Falls?
Summerland, Abby, has been another
Yeah.
one in Ewing, Nebraska. That kind of like a version of Central City, a brand new gym that can hold about 2,000. They've talked to them, Abby has reported. But what are your thoughts? What would you think would be a next logical spring match location? Because they've kind of made this thing hard to top. I mean, every year it gets
Yeah.
better.
It gets better every year, but you're right. Like with Ewing, they planned to do that this year, but then it didn't work out because football moved their spring game, and then there was graduations and all kinds of things. But I think Sioux City would be fun. Maybe like somewhere in Kansas.
How about Kansas City?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, there's Husker fans everywhere, and Nebraska's had good experiences in Kansas City. So yeah, that would be interesting to see. And it's also like, are they up for something like that where they might have to like spend the night? Is it more expensive to do that? Is
Well,
it
they say
harder
the
to
night in
coordinate?
Kearney, though, right?
Yeah, but yeah, it all just depends. And then also, if you're somewhere else, it could impact who you play because someone else would be closer to you.
Yeah.
So they always try to get closer opponents. They did Denver this year, Wichita State last year, Kansas State the year before. So they could get somebody different to play as well.
Yeah, if you played up in Sioux City or Sioux Falls, easily like South Dakota State or South Dakota would make sense, right? I mean,
Yeah.
somebody like that.
Yeah, those would be fun for sure.
Bergen Riley. John Cook has the luxury of having a returning starting quarterback that the football team doesn't. Bergen Riley, how did that picture look to you?
I mean, Bergen somehow keeps getting better and better.
Mhm.
The way that she runs the offense is so smooth and effortless
That's
for
good.
her.
Yeah.
And also like they've been working really hard on how to fine tune this offense because they were a lot better last year than they had been for like the 5 previous years, like efficiency wise. So they've been working on that, but they also have like a couple more hitters coming in. So that's going to change the picture a little bit. An outside hitter and a middle blocker. But yeah, Bergen, she's a star and she's taken on more, leadership this year. And I really think that will go well for them.
Yeah, it's Sioux Falls data, by the way. That'd be a good reason to play the spring match in
Yeah.
Sioux Falls.
Sioux
Yep.
Falls, that's right. How about Sean?
I'm just saying, you guys got ideas on ideas.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, it does make sense.
Give her kind of like a homage day in Sioux
No,
Falls.
it makes a lot of sense.
And there's options out there. And play one of the Dakota teams up there. But Abby, let's get right to the elephant in the room. Harper Murray. I mean, that has been a topic really all spring for unfortunate reasons. First with her incident with alcohol earlier this spring, and then an alleged shoplifting incident that happened right as Nebraska was getting ready to play this match in Kearney. What is your read on this situation right now? I mean, I know John Cook said it's in kind of the power that be's hand, and that's standard now. Like the athletic directors and the athletic department make these decisions, but it's a tense situation.
Yeah, it's a hard one to navigate, especially because you want her to come through it as a young person. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, especially when they're young. But also you have to do what's best for the team. So yeah, John Cook's like it's in somebody else's hands right now. Harper's focus needs to be finishing her finals. I think that they're probably gonna try to keep her on the team, right? She has proven to be a great player, but also a good person, even though she's had a couple of blips here. But I think that's where they're going to focus right now is just like trying to get past this, what seems to be a pretty hard time, get her through that as a person. And
she was not in Kearney.
Correct. She was suspended and they had decided that before this alleged shoplifting situation. So she wasn't there. She was suspended. I think they probably decided that earlier in the week.
Has there been any talk about further discipline into the coming season, or is that still kind of to be determined?
Yeah, it's to be determined, but I wouldn't be surprised if they held her out for a couple of matches. And also when they're playing those first few matches, they're pretty winnable games for them, so then they can get some other people some experience.
I mean, if worst case scenario, like if she needed more help and time to kind of get things figured out, she could always redshirt too. I mean, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But that's a possibility where they could just say, "Hey, let's get you the help and things you need right now. We're more worried about you, and then come back the next." But I'm sure that's not probably what she would like to do. But she's got to. There's a lot here, obviously.
Yeah. There's a lot of options for her, but also Nebraska. They also have options at outside hitter. They have Taylor Landfair coming in from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
She was the 2022 Big Ten Player of the Year and a first-team All-American. So she's good. So they have a lot of options with her and Lindsay Krause, who had a really promising return and is at 75% of what her 100% was, and she hit over 412 kills. So that's not a bad 75%, I would say. So they do have a lot of good options, but of course they want Harper because John Cook loves to have depth, and he's not afraid to, if somebody's not having a great game, he'll put somebody else in.
Imagine potentially missing time with an All-American and just having all those other options to where you're not even that worried about it.
You're like, it's
Must be
okay. We
nice.
have another All-American.
Well, John Cook won his first national championship without his best player playing. Nancy Mendering Metcalf back in 2000 redshirted because she had played on the Olympic team, and she sat out. And then
Did you cover that one?
Yeah, I was the beat writer with Brian Christopherson. We covered that together.
Sean, man, it's amazing.
I'm embarrassed to say I watch all the volleyball. I follow it closely. I have not been to a match since I covered it.
Is that right?
Mainly because of what we do with football. It's just so hard to get
It's a
away.
tough ticket.
Well, it's a tough
and
ticket.
you got to find a ticket.
And it's with what our schedule is. It's for us. It's hard to get
Sure.
to all the matches. But Abby, the schedule came out too. At least the non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
Initial. I saw Louisville's on there.
Yes. So their big ones are Creighton, Arizona State, so all 4 of these teams actually made it to the Sweet 16. So Creighton, Arizona State, Stanford here, and then they go to Louisville. They don't have a date for that one. So
Arizona State on the road or here.
here.
How's they
So-
been? How's Arizona State been? The
They're
Sun
they're good. They're I think quickly improving. They're going to have another good season this year, but last year they were the number 5 seed in the tournament.
Okay.
So
Girls? Okay.
yeah, they're definitely a solid team, and that's a good test for Nebraska. For
And the
sure.
Big Ten schedule breakdown, is that out yet?
No, they typically don't release that until like June or late June, maybe early July. They really hold off on that one.
So will you play all 17 opponents in the Big Ten now with 18 teams? Will they be able to play everybody once and then a couple double plays?
Yeah, I think so. And they who is their double plays? I can't remember. But it's like a closer. I think it's Wisconsin, Iowa, and maybe like Illinois for Nebraska's like home and away. And then like the West Coast teams will all play each other.
So
several
you'll either
times.
have a California trip or a
Right.
Northwest trip.
Yeah.
That's how it is for basketball.
And then one year they'll come to you on their trip.
Correct.
And I'm sure Iowa and Nebraska are paired as a
travel
Yeah.
partner.
union, you know.
I think it's USC and maybe UCLA that come here this year.
And they go to
Wow.
Washington and Oregon.
Yeah.
That's how it is. That's how
Yeah,
it is for
so
basketball.
I'm glad that USC is coming because Allie Batenhorst will be there, and I think Husker fans will be very welcoming to
Oh,
her
yeah.
coming back for sure.
Other than she was dating a Creighton basketball player.
Mm.
That was kind of a hot button for the Husker basketball fans.
What's that kid's name?
Baylor
Baylor
Shireman,
Sharm.
What's that kid's name?
former Aurora standout quarterback too. He was an unbelievable high school quarterback.
Robin, he's back. He's coming back, right?
no, he was a
Kalkbrenner's coming back. Enough
thought I
enough
heard-
Creighton
We
talk.
pride ourselves in preparation on the show.
God, I'm sorry. I thought I heard he was coming back. I really thought that.
Justin Patton's coming back.
I didn't realize Piakowski was out of eligibility.
Hopping, suiting up.
We pride ourselves on preparation for this show.
Abby's like, okay, this is where the old guys get old. All right. Well, thank you, Abby. We'll see you in the mailbag here.
Yep.
stuff,
See you in a minute.
All right, when we come back, we'll take questions in the mailbag. You're listening to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Always prepared, as we joked in our last segment. This segment of the Husker Online Show before we get in the mailbag is brought to you by Heartland Red, Lincoln's quality deck builders, based right here in Lincoln. All their employees are originally from Lincoln, and they build top-of-the-line quality decks, small decks, large decks, pool decks, standalone decks. They do lighting, wraps, privacy walls, underdecking, and more. They've got a great local showroom as well with Heartland Red. And, you know, if you're looking to upgrade, it's a perfect time of year. You want to have those backyard barbecues with your Omaha Steak, Burger Perfection, Flight Burgers. You need a deck to have the party at. And Heartland Red is going to get you hooked up with that, as they have so many options. And this is high quality decks built to last. Check them out at heartlandred.com. Call them at 402-405-5755 to set up a bid. That's 402-405-5755 to set up your bid today. thank you again to Heartland Red for sponsoring us on the Husker Online show. Okay, Abby, mailbag time. Where are we going?
Okay, first one. What is more likely to happen this season? 1,000-yard rusher or receiver?
Receiver.
Yep.
Wow,
Receiver.
wow.
Jamal Banks. I would say, like, if you were to put numbers on it, I don't even know if there'd be a good prop number for a running back to get 1,000 because it's just too unknown.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of an interesting conversation in that the quarterback's not going to lead the team in rushing again. Heinrich Haarberg led the team in rushing last year. That's not going to happen. I mean, the quarterback's not going to lead the team in rushing. So running back's going to have to lead it. Ideally, you get a guy with 1,000. I just don't know if there's a player right now you'd look at and say he's going to get 1,000, in part because they'll spread it around. The receiver thing too, though, is the same kind of dynamic. I think I could see Banks getting like 880 yards, 800 yards, not getting 1,000 because they're going to spread the ball around.
I think just the durability aspect with running back too. Like how many of those guys have proven they can be a wire-to-wire running back and get the number of carries necessary to get to 1,000. I mean, that's probably the biggest holdup for me. I mean, they got guys that have shown that potential. Several guys that have shown the potential receiver. I just think the opportunity is going to be much higher on that.
Yeah, what's a respectable total for the tailback group in a game? Can they get 150 as a group?
Well, again, Sean, the offense is different now.
Yeah, 200 rushing yards in the game with this style of offense will be hard to come by, especially when you take sack yardage out of the which is dumb, by the way. I still don't understand why college football does that. But when you deduct the sack number from the rushing total, it will be kind of hard to see Nebraska have over 200 rushing yards very often.
But they need more production from that spot. That's what I'm getting at. Because you take away the quarterback rushing yards, which for many years in recent times, they relied upon. They relied on Adrian to lead them in rushing, right? That's not going to happen.
I wonder, too, how much the screen game as an extension of the running game is going to play into that as well.
Yeah, Rob.
It seems like they have the chance to utilize that more than they have in a long time.
I do. They have a quarterback that can deliver it
and receivers that can do it
and
block it.
Yeah,
yes,
Bonner's out there. I mean, I think even Banks can be a blocker. I mean, it depends who you're throwing.
Malachi Coleman's a good blocker.
Malachi Coleman's a great blocker. You're right. He's the best blocker they had on that perimeter last year. Yeah, Rob. If you can throw a quick screen and get 5, 6, 7 yards, and some of those guys like Banks, like Fedoni, just fall forward and get 5. So yeah, that's what I think you're cooking with that.
Okay, next one. Are there any players on this team who you think have a shot at being on the Big Ten preseason team?
Preseason.
I don't see any first teamers. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I when you have an 18-team conference where there's 3 or 4 teams that think they're college football playoff teams, Nebraska hasn't qualified for a bowl since 2016.
Oh, who would it be?
I mean, I think you're going to see some second and third team type players like Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, maybe Tommy Hill, maybe Isaac Gifford.
Banks, a guy that no,
maybe
not with Ohio State in there.
Maybe Bryce Benhart on a lower team, maybe Ben Scott on a lower team.
Right, not first team.
But
Nebraska's biggest strengths are the biggest strengths of the conference: line and receiver.
Banks might be a second team because he was second team in the ACC. And the Big Ten did lose all its great receivers.
I have to look at Ohio State's roster before.
I mean, Ohio State lost everybody.
All Washington's guys and all Ohio State's guys.
Okay.
But they also reloaded at a ridiculous level. So
there's your answer.
Okay, next. What is the biggest glaring hole you guys have seen that is a serious concern going into fall camp in the season?
No glaring hole. There's not a glaring hole. That's the thing. I mean, we can go back to the punter and place kicker. That'd be as close as I can.
Well, the corner job opposite of Tommy Hill, like, I mean, you're going to roll with Hartzog, who's been okay, but not like a great corner, or Jeremiah Charles, or you get Bly Hill back eventually.
I don't think that's a glaring hole. Not with Hartzog there.
I think the biggest concerns are just unknowns, like we talked about. Like, I think we just need more time to get some answers right now to address those unknowns.
I think tackle depth in general, though, like if they sustain an injury to Benhart or Prohaska, like where would they go?
Who are we talking about?
Probably Latoski
or Gunnar Gatula.
Latoski. I mean, I just think Latoski's more game proven, and he's played tackle in practice.
Yep.
So that they would have to do, or Corcoran, but you don't get the sense Corcoran's anywhere near ready to be out there.
Tyler Knack. Can I sell that to you?
Again, Yeah, again, it would be hard to say. I mean, would he be better than Latoski in that role if they were in a bind?
I don't know.
Okay, next one. What would make you consider Nebraska's 24 season a success? What's the bar here?
7.
Let's get to a bowl game. I mean, like that alone is embarrassing to think. I mean, even like 2020, I wrote this week. How many NFL level players the 2020 team had? Their offense had 8 or 9 NFL level players on the field at 11 spots. Their defense had 3 or 4 or 5 NFL draft pick level type guys.
Right now, people are going to say, what are you talking about? But if you look at it, they had Adrian Martinez, Wandale Robinson, McCaffrey, Farniok, Hymas. That's 5. Austin Allen, Jack Stoll,
Ben Hart,
6, 7, 8. Yeah, I mean, they did. It wasn't
Vokalek.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I didn't even count Stahl in my story. So yeah. That team really underachieved.
I think he had 7 catches that year, something like that.
But when you think about that group of players, they really underachieved.
3 and 5.
And then on defense, they had JoJo Doman and Daniels, and
probably not quite as good defensively though, right?
Cam Taylor Britt.
Was Luke Gifford on that team?
No, Gifford was 20.
But they had holes, Sean, and it mainly was at receiver. They had Wandale, who I think had, I'm going to say, did he have like 40 plus catches? But the next guy was Levi Falk.
And Wandale's first touchdown didn't come until the Rutgers game.
Now it was Wandale. Then I would say their number 2 receiver was Falk, Levi,
who they brought in as a walk-on transfer from South Dakota.
Yeah, you could maybe. I'm just going by memory, but who would have been their number 2 guy? I think we're talking about Levi Falk.
It's up there.
Yeah,
Cade Warner.
Cade Warner had 5 catches that year,
but he was out there playing a lot.
Yeah.
To the point of the question, though, I will go back and agree. I'll say 7 and not 6 because I think you want to be you want to be above 500. Go to a bowl, but then also don't get in a 6 and 6. Get it at least minimum 7-5, especially with that schedule.
Yeah.
All right. Final question, Abby Barmore.
What was your favorite cartoon when you were growing up?
Go ahead, guys.
Cartoon.
I can go. Flintstones.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
really? Mutant Turtles was good. Do you remember?
Is it really good, Sean?
The sports?
You like that? Huh?
All Stars one where like Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, Wayne Gretzky.
What was that called?
All Stars, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it was Jordan, Gretzky, Bo Jackson, and was there one more? But they were like a tandem of like superheroes. They were like
Pro Stars.
Who were the guys they used in that show?
It was those 3.
That was it, just the 3.
Bo, Jordan, Gretzky.
I don't remember that.
And they had a cartoon on
that was
Saturday.
during your era, not mine. I was Fat Albert.
Early 90s.
They had a cartoon called Fat Albert that was really good on Saturday mornings.
Hey.
Yeah, I can sing the song.
Sing it.
No. I'd say Flintstones was really good. It was hard to miss that. It was hard to miss it.
Abby, what was yours?
SpongeBob was always our favorite.
SpongeBob.
Watched a lot of SpongeBob.
Boy, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised on SpongeBob sometimes. It would get a little bit, they pushed the envelope a little bit on that show. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you're saying. But when you're young, you don't catch it. And then you
get
catch
older,
a rerun when you're older. You're like,
what did you say?
If you go back
Kinda
and
like
watch
Shrek.
a lot of shows as an adult, you pick up on stuff that you would not as a kid.
Oh, yeah. I had a class at UNL on that very subject, and it was alarming. It made me think about the world different.
You know what the hot cartoon now is, though? It's Bluey.
Oh, yeah. Bluey is
Bluey
elite.
Bluey's like the GOAT of
Elite.
cartoons right now.
I mean, it is one of the greatest kids' cartoons ever.
Really? You guys watch it?
Yes.
It's like a better version of for kids now, The Simpsons. The Simpsons was a great cartoon and great writing, but it's kind of like The Simpsons now for kids.
Bluey.
It is high level. Music's good, and it's like they hit on real topics, like real life scenarios, and do so in a way that kids kind of get it. But as an adult, you're like, whoa, that's heavy.
The dad's hilarious in that show.
Like the ultimate dad.
Dance party. Carly, that's what Carly watched on the plane. I mean, like,
my son had a Bluey birthday party.
Wow.
Yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Wow.
Have you seen Bluey?
I have not seen it. I do
you're
not
missing
have
out.
children.
Yeah.
Mom.
You're asking
You don't need
good questions.
I'm
you don't need
not
kids.
watching it by myself.
Bingo. Bluey.
This is unbelievable.
I could sing the whole song.
Yeah.
We listen to the soundtrack all the time.
That's what you got. You get what you bargained for there, Abby.
Yeah,
Is that what
I
you wanted,
learned a lot
Abby?
Is that
here.
what you want?
And are you?
I'm
Are
not
you ready
sure
to
what I
turn
wanted.
back around and go to Kearney and leave us?
All right. On that note,
I wasn't expecting the singing, but
All right. When we come back, we got to catch up on some basketball news with Robin. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment here of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Robin Washett, Steve Sipple. And before we get into some basketball talk, Steve Sipple, this segment of the Husker Online Show is brought to you by who?
Larson Motors. I mean, if you look outside, it just seems like this would be the sort of day, the sort of time of year where you would want to buy a car and you might want to drive to Nebraska City to do it, to Larson Motors. Larson Motors is one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. Finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. So why not start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Gorgeous Nebraska City. Larson Motors. Let's do this, Sean. Real people.
Real deals.
Good job, guys. Go there. God, I mean, what a drive today.
And we've heard you've led a lot of people down to Nebraska City.
Yeah,
it sounds
well, they
like.
should go down there. I mean, you can make a day of it, actually.
They got everything.
Yeah, but go to that lot and check it out.
All right. Well, let's get into basketball talk, Robin. First of all, and Sipple and I hit on this on headlines, but Braxton Mia, they added him from Washington. And at the time, you're like, oh, good depth piece. But now his addition to this roster becomes even more important because over the last few days, we now learned that Rink Mast is out for the season, which I don't think anybody expected like that. This type of injury was going to knock him out for a whole year. But that makes the addition of Miha that much more important.
Yeah, I mean, there were rumors floating for a while that one, he was going to need surgery, and two, that it could be extensive enough that he would miss substantial time, if not the whole season. So I don't know if this came out of left field. And then the more you hear about it, I know for a fact Nebraska was not caught off guard by this. Like, I know he was going through the process and getting all these second opinions, but I think in the back of their minds, they kind of knew what was up. And a lot of it isn't just because of what was going to determine his fate for this season, but what was the best course for his long-term health beyond basketball, to be able to walk. You know, this was a knee injury that had been bothering him for a long time. They tried to quick fix it last year, the day after the Kansas State game, and it got him through the season. But if you go back and watch that, even the Texas A&M game, like just him lumbering up and down the court, like he had no bounce. And you want to talk about why that athleticism stuck out so much? It's because Rink could barely even move. And so this was one of those deals where they tried all these different avenues to see if they could get him through this coming season without surgery. But in the end, they quickly realized that not just for his basketball future, but for his long-term health, that this was something needed to get fixed and do it right. So they're going to spend the next year getting him ready. And he does have another year of eligibility. It'll be a medical hardship waiver that will get him through this season. And then he will be eligible to return in 25-26. So we'll see what happens from now to then. But you know, I think this decision wasn't so much about what's going to help us win next season. It's going to be what's going to be the best thing for Rink.
I once covered a volleyball national championship match, Abby, guys, in Kansas City, Nebraska. I think it beat Florida. And there was a Florida girl that was playing with a broken arm, with a cast on. And Cook had her girls serve at her relentlessly. I kind of felt sorry for her, but that's what you do. I wonder if A&M did the same thing with Rink. We know he's hurting. They doubled him every time. It's just like they preyed on a wounded animal.
Yeah, I mean, it showed. I mean, he was not himself.
No,
he was not the guy that put 34 on Ohio State.
I wonder if that's the way that Buzz was thinking. Let's go get him.
Well, he was like hardly doing anything in practice. Like he had such a limitation. They said that he was full go, but they were really conscious about making sure that his between game workload was managed heavily.
It can be a cutthroat world, and that might have been the idea. Let's prey on him. I mean, he's good passing on double teams when he's healthy. Maybe they thought, let's get him. Let's mess them all up.
Yeah. So with Braxton Mia, I mean, they needed a 5 regardless, but now he becomes especially important. And, you know, I think that, again, they took him with the understanding that he was going to have to play a substantial role, and they probably sold him on that. So you pair what Braxton, 7'1", 250, one of the top shot blockers in the Pac-12 the last 2 seasons, even with an injury-riddled season in his own right a year ago. He gives you that rim protection, elite level shot blocking, and finishing on the offensive end around the rim that they don't have on their roster. And then you pair that with the addition of Andrew Morgan, the North Dakota State transfer. Okay. He does a lot of what Rink brought to the table offensively, to where he can make plays off the dribble. He's a good passer, maybe not quite as good as Derek Walker, Rink Mast level, but he's good enough that they can function. And he's not quite the shooter Rink is, but he's also really crafty around the basket. So the defense with Mia, the offense with Morgan, I think that combination will help kind of alleviate what they're losing with Rink for this season.
And then briefly, Robin, as we wrap up the show, Nebraska did add a walk-on player in. You know, these with scholarship limited, I mean, always having extra scholarships, some of these walk-ons can end up finding themselves on scholarships. You know, if the numbers break right and they can contribute. Did they add a contributing level walk-on here?
I think so. Justin Bolus. He's a 6'9" power forward type from Lincoln High, go Lynx, and spent this last year at Southeast Community College, who just now was playing basketball, I think, over the last year or two.
The Lincoln campus or the Beatrice?
Beatrice, I believe. Or Lincoln, I don't know.
They have 2 camps.
Yeah. So anyway, he averaged 15.5 points, 8.7 rebounds, 1.4 assists as a freshman, shot 37% from 3-point range. So, I mean, like on the surface, yeah, it's junior college numbers, but the size, the athleticism, the local connections, and the production make that about as good of a preferred walk-on addition as you can get. And you've seen guys contribute. Sam Hoiberg, Cale Jacobson.
Yeah.
I mean, like he could be in line to where, you know, the kind of minutes Matar Jop was getting at the end of last year. Justin Bolus could be in line for that.
One other addition here, just like Joel Klatt with football, Joe Lenardi projects way too early, but projects Nebraska as an 8 seed.
You were part of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, they brought back a lot. They did lose a lot, but I think they brought back a lot. They added some good pieces. They still need to add one more spot, but we'll see. The Big Ten is going to be a whole lot better than it was a year ago, but you know, when you set the bar, you need to continue to raise it. And I think that's their goal this year.
8 seed. Let's go back to Memphis.
All right. Make sure you follow all Robin's work on Nebraska basketball. And again, if you're not a member of Husker Online, great time to check us out. We've got a special here for our YouTube and podcast listeners. Simply use promo code NU1. We're going to give you 2 months for $1. That's promo code NU1, 2 months for $1. That's the best deal you're going to find to try out Husker Online for 2 months for $1. Thanks again to Steve Sipple, Avi Barmore, Robin Washut here as we put a wrap here on the Husker Online show.